Welcome back to the First Team. I'm Joe DeLeone, and with me is my co-host, NFL draft analyst of A to Z Sports. I can now actually add that to the end. I didn't do that earlier when we were on with Connor, but Ryan Roberts is with me, and we're going to be sharing our top 10 edge rushers for the 2025 NFL Draft, part of our summer scouting series. Go back and check those out, as well as making sure to hit the subscribe button and comment below who you think should be in our top 10s. Ryan, you and I were just saying this. We don't think that the edge class is going to be as divisive as some of these other position groups.
Yep.
I think it's because that there's much more consistent talent. Tackle was a really big argument group, and I think that there was a lot of different body type preferences for running back.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to be on the same page for most of these top guys in the edge group, but I'm curious to see the direction of this conversation.
I mean, first and foremost, I think it's not overly divisive because I think that most people agree, and I'm not talking for everyone because people see things differently, but most people agree that this is a really good class, right? I mean,
right.
I'm looking at my list and I get some high grades here, man. This is a really good edge class early on, it appears. And I think that there's a lack of divisiveness as well because Joe, I think that we might disagree with some players in certain buckets, right? In certain tiers, but I think for the most part, the tiers are pretty well defined in my opinion, right? There might be one guy that we disagree with maybe by a round or maybe by half a round, whatever it might be. There might be a little bit of discourse there, but overall, I do think that there are substantial first round level players. At least there's a couple, and if there's a couple first round players right this second, there's a 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 more that have an opportunity to play themselves into that. And then there's a wealth of talent on mid to late day 2 and into day 3 as well. So it's a really good class, man. I think that for the most part, people seem to agree with that fact.
I'll kick us off as we always do. We will drop our 10 through 6 each, share some thoughts, and then we're going to dive deep in on 5 through 1. My number 10, I've got Danny Dennis Sutton from Penn State. Number 9, JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State. Number 8, Princely Umanmielen from Florida. Number 7, Trey Moore from Texas. And the number 6 guy that I really like is Landon Jackson from Arkansas.
Is that how you pronounce that? Umanmielen? Is that how you pronounce that?
I don't want to say with certainty, but that was one of the instances where I saw his name a while ago having to talk about Florida. I think it was last season. And I was like, there is no shot I'm going to get this kid's name right. I'm going to go listen to the broadcast footage. And that was what the commentators were saying. So I could be wrong, but I believe it is. If you look how it's spelled, I think it's Umanmielen. All right. So thoughts though on my 10 through 6.
Yeah, no, I was going to compliment you because phonetically that does seem to make sense to how that would potentially be spelled. So one player
I'm
that
a skilled orator.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. You're a wordsmith of all trades here. One player that I did not end up grading, Joe, but I understand the appeal to, but I just wanted to see more. Just wanted to see more for various reasons. Danny Dennis Sutton that you mentioned there in your crack your top 10 for Penn State. Sell him on me, man, because there are some reps where I see it. There are other reps where I don't at all. This is a divisive player. This is literally a divisive player in this list, in my opinion.
Well, so what you just said there, you and I had the discourse of, is he worth including? And I thought that I was able to get enough film on him that it made sense to. I am not in the camp there. I've seen some folks try to say that this is a top 3 guy. He hasn't done enough and he's not consistent enough to say he will be a first round pick. There is a world where he could progress and get better and he could land late in the first round. I could see that argument playing out and working out. The thing that attracted me to him is the frame, the movement skills at that size. He's listed it on the Penn State site at 6'5", 272. I mean, this is a big, long, explosive, powerful kid. There are reps on film where you watch and you're just like, whoa, this kid could be really impossible to block with the length that he brings to the position. But then it's like the whole freaking Penn State team, 99% of the Penn State team, where you watch him and you're like, I don't know why he's not more productive. I don't know why he's not on the field more. I don't know why he isn't using his skills more consistently and more effectively. You and I had another conversation separately over text where we were saying to one another, Penn State does not develop guys
They don't.
effectively. They do it like 70% of the way, and then they send him to the NFL.
And that's the hard parts, because obviously we're never going to helmet scout, right? Because every player is their own individual person. But also, when there is a string of guys just not being developed properly, you kind of raise your antennas a little bit, right? Like Penn State defensive lineman is one, defensive ends, I should say specifically, because they don't really put out too many good defensive tackles anyway. But then it's like Alabama offensive lineman as well. Like recently, you're like, what has Alabama really produced a great offensive lineman, right? So Danny Dennis Sutton looks the part. The frame is great. And there's moments where he can dip and he can corner. And I'm like, that's unique. But then there's other times where he looks stiff. I'm just very curious if he just hasn't really grown into his body enough yet, where he doesn't legitimately know everything that he can do physically, right? Like there might be that little switch that kind of goes off this year. He just was a weird guy for me to rank right now and give a grade to overall.
The way that I'd put it, it's almost like he'll go through like 3/4 of his snaps, or maybe not 3/4, like half of his snaps, and then he'll remember, oh wait, I'm so much more athletic and more talented than everybody, and I'm just going to use it on this one play or the next string of plays, and then I'm going to completely forget and think that I'm an accountant for some reason, and I don't belong on this field. I'm not saying he doesn't belong in the field, but he just disappears.
So I used to coach track and field, and I specialized in the discus, and I always used to compare it to this, Joe. Like there was a point of when I'm coaching a kid to throw a discus, there's everything that you need to functionally do, the footwork, the swing, the good posture, all those types of things. And kids early on, when you're teaching them, coaching them, and this is in most sports, they become mechanical, right? Because everything in their mind is like, I need to do X, Y, and Z that my coach is telling you. But we know as former football players, there is a moment though where that clicks and you let loose and you become a little bit more just of a functionally loose athlete. And because it's just ingrained in you so much. I feel like this is a kid that is so focused on trying to be technically sound that he doesn't let loose ever, right? Like that's what this kid feels like to me. When he does, he has a chance to be very high on this list, but I can't grade just the flashes. I have to grade every part of it. And that's why I just kind of wanted to hold off and not even grade him right now. Like, let's talk about him during the season if he has a breakout. That's where I'm at with Danny Dennis Sutton.
All right, cook up your 10 through 6. What do we got?
Number 10, I have R.J. Oben from Notre Dame, former Duke pass rusher. Number 9, I have Trey Moore, the Texas rusher from UTSA. Kamon Rucker from UNC, North Carolina, at number 8. Number 7, I have Landon Jackson from Arkansas. And number 6, I have JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State.
You're a lot higher on okay, I have to just say my piece and then I'll let you defend him.
Sure.
I don't think he's going to be productive in the NFL. I just don't. I see a big, strong...
Define productive. Define it.
I see a big, strong kid who could be a secondary rusher who will never have more... I'm going to totally get clipped for saying this, but he will never have more than like 6 sacks. He's just not going... He disappears so much on film whenever he plays a slightly above average offensive tackle. He can be really good against the run, like really stout, really physical against the run.
Except for Olu Fashanu, he used to kill Olu, dude. Killed him. Both back-to-back years killed Olu.
I don't know, dude. I just was a little underwhelmed for the second straight year of watching him. There's no production, and it stands out on tape.
Mid-second round grade for me, so I'm not here shouting first round for JT Tuimoloau. I think that he's going to be
a late second on him, actually. No,
okay, so we're not that far. I think that this kid is going to be a solid starter on the NFL level. Nothing flashy. I agree with you almost. I think this is a 5 to 8-ish sack a year guy, but I think that in the run game, he does a very nice job. He really does he sets the edge well. I think he plays with good posture, good hands, good footwork. Everything is good. I think he's a smart rusher as well. I don't think he just runs past the pocket. I do think that he understands how to fight pressure. I think that he has some moves in his repertoire. And I think the one thing that we can't undersell is that he has had a couple big games against maybe the best tackle he's seen the last 2 years. And I do believe that he makes big plays and big moments. I think of the Notre Dame game, Joe, where Notre Dame had that game basically won if they run this clock out and they try to throw a screen towards JT. And what happens? Bats it down because he just has a very distinct understanding of the game of football. So I think all that stuff plays together to be a solid starter at the next level. I'm not there of a man, he's going to be a 10-plus sack a year guy and he's going the first round. Like, no, that's not JT. But as a day two pass rusher,
way
he's good.
too much as a top 10 pick. Every freaking time to the past 2 years at the start of the cycle, he has been projected as a top 10 pick, which is egregious.
I think, if I remember correctly, the spring grades that I've seen are mid-second round grades, which makes sense. I think we're good there. I think we're fine. I think the NFL is going to be fine with JT. They're going to like JT. They're not going to love JT. They're not going to dislike JT. He's a solid, good, passable football player who's going to be a solid starter at the NFL level, or at least a high-end backup. Like, that's what he is. This is not a high upside, low floor dude like this. The floor is higher. The ceiling is not super high. Like, this is just a good player, not a great player, good football player.
Well, speaking of his teammate, he's my number 5. Jack Sawyer is
oh my gosh. Oh, I have a headache.
Wait, did he not even make your top 10?
I muted myself by accident, but yeah, he didn't make my top 10. No, he did not.
And you were trying to tell me that this wasn't going to be divisive.
Dude, he's stiff as a board, Joe. He's stiff as a board.
All right. We're already off to a hot start here. You're already. I put down average person flexibility.
Can't corner. Yeah.
Okay. I think that he is one of the best power profiles that any of these edge rushers that we're talking about. So, like, if we're going to value an RJ Oben or Rucker, like he is a very strong.
Has much better pass rush plan, as does K'Mon Rucker. Go ahead.
I disagree. Well, here we go. Again, you jinxed it. You completely jinxed it by saying that this wasn't going to be the divisive conversation.
And it did.
High motor, physical, powerful. He doesn't really have the gear, the burst, or the bend you're talking about to beat somebody on the outside track. But that's not his game. I liked him a lot more than JT Tuimoila because I felt like there were a lot more tangible situations where he was generating pressure. He was making plays at the line of scrimmage against running backs. He is able to use his frame and his physicality to make plays. And I think that, albeit, as we say all the time in scouting, if certain traits, certain skill sets are average to below average, or let's just say average, do you have something in a great category that can make up for it? I don't have a crazy high grade on him. I've got a second round grade on him. I'm a mid second round grade on him.
Early 4.
I just think
early 4 for me.
I think this is a kid who steps right in and can be a really high quality secondary rusher.
Oh, I don't think he's going to be a high-quality secondary rusher. I think that he can play the run very well. I think he's physical. I agree with you. I think he's got strong hands. He plays with good anchor at the point of attack. Like, all that stuff is really cool. You know what you said about JT about never having more than 6 sacks in a season on the NFL level? That is Jack Sawyer, dude. Like, Jack Sawyer is going to be 4 to 6 sacks and just be a solid rotational player, maybe a low-end starter. That's Jack Sawyer. Nothing wrong with it, but that's what Jack Sawyer is, in my opinion.
I want to go to bed right now. I'm so upset. All right, who's your number 5? Mister?
Number 5 for me is Mykel Williams from Georgia, the toolsy edge rusher who is a massive projection right now because I feel like it always comes back to this, Joe. He is a player that is a true 4-3 hand in the dirt defensive end, okay, who is playing in a mostly 3-4 alignment. So he's playing a lot of odd man front. He's playing a lot of 4-4-I, which I just don't think really works in his favor. He's 6'5", he's 265 pounds. He's got long arms. I think he's got really nice burst, straight line burst. I don't know but the thing is I don't know how flexible he is fully because I've never seen him work from wide alignments much. Like, it just isn't a thing that he's asked to do for Georgia. But man, length, explosiveness, it's all there, right? So like the building blocks are there. I could definitely see this kid going in the first round, but I do think that there is not a cautionary tale because I don't think he's like necessarily a boomer bust kid, but I do think that we need to distinguish the traits to being as translatable as we want them to be and not just kind of falling for the trap, right? Because if he looks the part, everything looks good on paper, but until it tangibly happens on the field, I'm just a little bit of a cautionary guy right now on Mykel Williams. I think he's got first round upside. I think he's got top 15 talent, but right now he is a little bit of a projection because we just haven't seen him do the traditional outside track duties that I would like to see for a high-end edge rusher. Just a little bit of a projection right now.
He's my number 4, so a nice transition there. All the things that you said, I think, hit the nail on the head. It flashes a ton on film, but just not consistently. Like which is weird. He was an early contributor as a freshman, and it's kind of like Kelvin Banks, where you would think with the early contributions at a young age that he would be further along in his development, but he's just not, which is fine. His physical tools that he brings to the position, the explosiveness, the way that he can easily anchor, that stuff is rare and hard to find. I think his awareness is one thing too that stood out to me. Just kind of got caught up in blocks, doesn't really track the football and locate the football, make plays on ball carriers in the run game as consistently as he could. That is something that could come with time. I said this to you about a month ago when I watched Mykel Williams. And I said that this feels like Trayvon Walker all over again. And I know that we're scouting the helmet a little bit there, making that comparison. I totally see why a lot of people right now, right this second, are projecting him as either the number one overall prospect or as the number one overall edge player. He has that ceiling. He absolutely has that ceiling to be as good, if not better, than James Pearce Jr. I just feel like he's much further away from it. So we need to calm ourselves a little bit. I have an early second on him, and I think that that's pretty reasonable placement for him. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. Bet online, where the game starts.
Yeah, I think we see Mykel very similarly, Joe. I had a mid-second round on him, so that makes complete sense. Number 4 for me, another toolsy upside kid that's a little bit of a projection, just slightly. Not like a super projection, because we have seen him tangibly in traditional edge settings. What are you looking at me right now? You want to make a guess here?
You about to say some crazy shit?
Like what? Like what? What would you think I was going to say?
All right, well, you and I were texting about Ethan Downs. Are you about to say Ethan Downs? Okay, thank God. Thank God. All right, who is it?
Ethan Downs was like 14 on my list. Like, Ethan's fine.
He's 15 for me.
He's fine. Number 4 for me is Patrick Payton from Florida State. Okay, Patrick Payton. 6'5". Dude, I don't know what this kid's arm length is. It's got to be something dumb. What are you looking at me like that for?
Sorry, I'm distracting you. I'm just trying to we always do this. There's one guy that I can't figure out who's in your top 5.
Okay, well,
you're okay. Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah. Long arms, dude. Like, this kid might have legitimate 35-inch arms. Some of these pass breakups that he has, some of the ability to just kind of play out of his frame is just kind of nutty, dude. Like, he could really cover ground, and the range on this player is absurd. And that range comes from 1, explosive, 2, super long. Like, it is absolutely outrageous. So I'm a fan of all the tools. That being said, I do think he's winning off of pure athleticism right now, right? Like, if he doesn't win with his first step and his reach, he doesn't really win. Like, he doesn't have a great power profile right now. I do think he has potential for that power profile, and I don't think he really has much of a plan. But this kid is bendy, this kid is explosive, and this kid is long. And that together, on top of the production he had this last season, I can see an easy transition to him being that guy. I just want to see 1, a little bit more power, just a year of maturation. 2, I want to see a plan, man. Jared Verse had a plan, right? Like, he was a bulldozer, but also he had a club rip. He had some inside counters. Like, I need to see something like that out of Patrick Payton. Add some tools to the arsenal, and I think that this kid has first-round upside without question.
Yeah, the tools was just the only main knock that I had on him. Is just, or not tools, the pass rush moves was one thing that I noted that needs to be worked on. But I'm a really big fan of his. He's my number 3. That's why I kind of gave you that puzzled look. I'm like looking at my board. I'm trying to figure out if we're going in the same order, but you're one guy behind on me.
I thought you were about to yell at me for having Patrick Payton in my top 10 or something, because I'm like,
no.
I'm
probably going to yell at you at whoever's sitting at number 3, because there's somebody sitting in between Patrick Payton and James Pearce and Nic Scourton. There's somebody in there that I don't know who the hell it is. But to get back to Patrick Payton, he's actually, I would say he's one of my favorite prospects in this class. For being one of the leaner guys, his power profile is tremendous. Like, to watch the way that he's able to anchor and use his length against the run. And I think that he flashes some of that power coupled with his burst. All these things brings together a bit of a raw prospect, but one that is projectable for me. I have the earliest possible second round grade I could put on him. He is somebody who I think throughout this process is going to be productive this season, and then will go on to be a first rounder. That's like one of those quick stamps I throw out there. Somebody will take him in the middle to the end of the first round.
I could definitely say it. I have an early second round grade on him as well. I have a 7.7 on our scale, so like a pretty high second round grade in that instance. Joe, this is a comp that is going to be put on him because of the helmets, right? People are going to compare him to Josh Sweat. I can tell you this already. Yeah. He's got dredge. He's 6'5". He's long. But I tell you this, I usually push back on the helmet comps a little bit. I actually don't hate that one. I actually do see a little bit of Josh Sweat. Like, I see it. Yeah, I see it. I mean, Josh Sweat was super athlete, long, explosive. Like, yeah, I could see the Josh Sweat thing a little bit. I could see it.
Okay, so we're already ripping through this. Well, who's your number 3?
Princely, Uman Manellan.
Uman
Manellan. Sure, let's go with that.
I just realized you didn't say him earlier. Okay, I don't have any qualms with this. I thought you were going to say something crazy. I thought you were going to be like David Walker.
I do like David Walker. He actually just missed my top 10. I like David Walker.
His arms are just a little too short.
Yeah, he's stubby. He's got to be Brandon Graham, or else he's going to be out of the NFL.
He's like Gelati. He's exactly like Ashton Gelati, where you watch him, and you're like, wow, this guy's like really goes balls to the wall, but where is his arms? All right, continue. Go ahead.
He does have very short arms. Princely, who I'm just going to call him so I don't butcher his last name, okay? I have almost an identical grade to Patrick Payton, Joe. I have a 7.7 on him. I narrowly edged him out just because look, we're going to talk about cautionary tales, okay? I'm about to tell you a cautionary tale of Princely, okay? Here's what I see on film this past year. Actually, let me start at 2022. 2022, I watched him. Was not a fan, dude. Just was not. Took plays off, wasn't aggressive, wasn't urgent. Like, I just didn't like anything about his 2022 film. Yes, the traits are there, whatever. 2023, I thought he was a little bit more urgent. I thought he played with a little bit more fire, which I thought was a great step. Because the thing about Princely is this kid is a freak show athlete, dude. Like, he is 6'4 plus. He's going to be 250 plus pounds. Guarantee his arms are 33 and a half, if not 34 plus inches. He's got length, but this kid is explosive. He also has tools in his arsenal, dude. I've seen a club rip. I've seen inside counters. I've seen a ghost. Like, I've seen a bunch of different stuff that he pulls out of his bag. He is loose, flexible, explosive, and long. And I'm telling you, man, his highs or about as high as anybody in this class outside of maybe James Pearce Jr. Like, it may be that high. I am all in on the flashes. I'm projecting, hopefully, that he takes a next step here. Because the step I saw from 2022 to 2023 was incredible. If he takes another step, not quite to that degree, but even similarly at Ole Miss, his last year after transferring over from Florida, now he's going to be playing with Jared Ivey. He's going to be playing with Walter Nolan. Going to be playing on a more talented penetration style defensive line than what he played in Florida. If he takes a similar step or something close, this kid's a first rounder. Like, I just don't see anything outside of that. There's going to be work ethic questions as far as urgency in his play right now. But if he shows improvement in that area again, like he did in 2023, this kid has all the tools in the toolbox to be a high-end pass rusher on the next level, man. It's there. I just need it to be there more consistently.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you there. I just tried to build in a little bit of a buffer with his grade. I agree with all that. I'm actually really optimistic. I kind of said this in when I tweeted out his highlights last week, was that he's going to a new situation, new defensive coordinator. Pete Golding's a great DC who's very undervalued. I think that you kind of crap on him sometimes.
Pete is a what? Pete Golding is a what?
Underrated defensive coordinator. I know that you hate him, but he is an underrated defensive coordinator. I think that a change of scenery could potentially help him. But everything you just said, man, like it's silly watching him on film, but there's just a lot of times where you kind of do feel where you have heard where he's not like a super high motor, super high focused guy. You saw that on film. And some of that does come from coaching. Some of that does come from how the coaches are talking to you and trying to motivate you, and maybe there just wasn't any gelling there. All right, that leaves our 2 and number 1 in this class, which is pretty obvious. We did scouting reports on these guys, and I think we're both on the same page. Number 2 for both of us, Nic Scourton from Texas A&M, 6'4", 280, and all 280 of that is freaking muscle. I think the best way to put into perspective here with this kid, he is like a wrecking ball. playing at the edge position. His spin move is one of the nastiest spin moves that I have ever scouted for a prospect. Just unbelievably physical. But not only is he physical and not like one of these other guys lower down that we've talked about where he's kind of just trying to shove his way through. No, he is relatively tactile and he's bursty and explosive with not elite bend, but good enough bend to consistently create separation for himself. I think that this is a super productive cat in the NFL, and I totally see this dude being a top 10 pick when this process is all said and done.
I want everybody out there to go Google Nic Scourton. That's Nick with N-I-C, not with a K, and just look at his neck. And then you'll know what Joe's talking about being dense. This kid is...
He's not skipping neck day, man.
Dude, he's 6'4". Yeah, I know. He's doing his shrugs, man. No doubt about it. He's 6'4", 280 plus, and it is a legit 280 plus. He is physical. He is dense, but he does not compromise with athleticism, man. He really get off the football. He moves incredibly well. This kid, what he did at Purdue last year, despite not really having anybody else around him that was anything stellar. Like, everybody knew number 5 was the dude. Now going to Texas A&M, playing with some more talent like Shamar Stewart and Shamar Turner. I think that he's going to have a lot more one-on-one opportunities. He's going to be stellar for the Aggies.
Yeah, he's probably the simplest scouting report that we could have for a guy. And our number 1 is both James Pearce Jr. from Tennessee. Yep. I think the way that we did our scouting report on him, and he's not my number 1 ranked prospect, but I gave him a pretty ridiculous grade. I gave him an early first round grade. He is he is my number 1 prospect at the moment. Ooh. And it all comes down to the combination of bend, burst for a kid who you can tell is still coming into his body. That's where I think the delineation between Scourton and James Pearce is that you see Pearce still adding weight to his frame. Scourton's already kind of where we know that he is because he's 280 pounds and he's built to all heck. But I think that there's room for Pearce to get stronger, to potentially maybe become more explosive than he already is. And the ceiling for him is that of Jadeveon Clowney that we kind of thought that what he was going to be when he came into the league.
He is a wildly impressive football player. We compared him, I think last time body type wise, he might be like some Brian Burns-ish. I compared him a little bit to Javon Curse. Like this kid, for a guy that still needs to develop the power profile, the ability to win outside track is special, guys. And that's first and foremost, right? If you're going to be a big time pass rusher on the next level, threatening outside shoulder is number 1 because that brings the inside counters. That brings the speed to power. You need to be able to threaten that outside shoulder in order to be a high volume pass rusher on the next level. And he does it, dude. Just imagine, because he's pretty strong for his size right now. Just imagine when he's 250 and he's holding more weight to him. He is going to be unstoppable, man. Like, there's no doubt about it. For as good as he is now, he could get even better. And the length, the explosiveness, the flexibility, the change of direction, all that stuff is super rare territory right now. So yes, James Pearce Jr., Javon Curse, Brian Burns, whoever you want to call him to, I don't care. All I know is that he should go in the top 5, maybe top 10 for sure, top 5 without question though in this class as of today.
I wouldn't actually, let me rephrase how I'm going to start this. He's going to get the Will Anderson treatment. He is absolutely going to get the overthink.
And then go number 3 overall. They go number 3 overall. Yeah, probably.
Yes.
Probably.
I'm calling it right now.
I mean, it's already happened. There was somebody on Twitter that put like a 2nd round grade on him or something. I'm like, all right, cool. Whatever. I don't care.
Well, it depends on who's doing it. That's going to be it from us. Drop a comment below. Let us know what you think on our lists at Joe DeLeone, at Rise and Draft. Hit the subscribe button, and we will be back with our next top 10, which should be interior offensive lineman. Talk to you soon.